everyone. I just got done doing some videos and some photos for a listing of mine here in Grand Rivers, and I thought this would be a good opportunity to stop and tell you where I'm going to next. It's going to be the Shoreline Management Plan meeting with the U.S. Corps of Engineers for Lake Barkley, and it's going to be at Lake Barkley State Park here in about an hour. So I got a little extra time to get down there. They do this meeting every 5 years, and they give you details about. They give you a draft of their shoreline management program for the next 5 years of what they're planning on changing, if any. And at the time, you can ask questions and you can submit emails for public comment if you want something changed, if you've got concerns. And I think some of the big topics they talk about is our dock regulations, the shoreline management when it comes to a lot of the concerns with our boaters is when they draw the lake level down. They want the lake level to stay up all year round. So some of the docks are not in the mud in the winter, and I can understand that. And I see both sides to it. So hopefully I'm going to go down there and get you a little bit of insight on what their thoughts are and what the public's thoughts are, and bring that to you and give you a little bit of information about how the Corps operates around here, because it's different at every lake, especially if you've got TVA here on Kentucky Lake and Corps of Engineers on Barkley Lake on the other side of here, Grand Rivers. They just totally operate different. And it's like that around the country. We found with our lake agents, some lakes are owned by Corps of Engineer in the southeast, but you can't have a dock at all. You got to have a community dock or go to a marina. We're fortunate around here on Lake Barkley where you can have private docks. That's one of the draws to our area. So come with us and hopefully get you some good information.
Just a few minutes. You want to sign in, you got about 1 or 2 minutes left. I just want to point something out. This little sheet, if you didn't get one on the table over here, pick one of these up. It's got all the information on there. It's got our address, phone number, email. This little QR code will get you a digital copy of the draft shoreline management plans. We also have hard copies of the shoreline management plan there too, if you want one. And then on the back, it's got the rangers per area on the lake. And not here in Fleet, at least the ones who are here today. But feel free to get you one of these. And we'll go over the changes to the shoreline plan that we proposed as far as the draft plan. Wes will go through some of that. You're welcome to follow along in the plan there if you picked up one. If not, you got time to get one, and we'll get started here in just a minute.
Tuesday, and does this All right, we'll go ahead and get started here.
You know, everybody's time is valuable, so we're gonna go through a presentation here to take maybe 30 minutes or so, and then we'll have time for open comments if anybody wants to make comments, and then we should have time at the end for any questions too. If you when you signed up, we asked if you want to make a comment or not. We'll go down through the ones who said yes, and we'll give you the opportunity, and then if there's other questions that kind of pop up and we want to ask a question, we'll be around and try to answer those. So just because you said no here don't mean you can't talk during the meeting. So don't take it that way. We just kind of want to get an idea to know who wanted to say something. So my name's Phil Kite, and I am the lake manager for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers here on Lake Barkley. We're one of the federal land managers, probably the biggest one for Lake Barkley. Of course, on the west side, you've got LBL, which is managed by the Forest Service, and then you've got we're going to state parks here. So you've got state park land. You've got Cross Creeks National Wildlife Refuge on the south side of the lake. So you've got a lot of different federal landowners around. But we operate the dam, the lock, the hydropower plants. We regulate the water, and then we own most of the public property on the east side of the lake. And so that's kind of what we operate here. So I want to go through just the agenda here a little bit, tell you how the process is going to go tonight, and hopefully if you got questions, we can answer them. So again, that QR code, you lose your copy, that'll take you to a website, and you can download a copy of the direct shoreline management plan. The highlights and underlined, they're highlighted in yellow and underlined the changes that we are proposing. That's not to say public comments from you guys. We may add something else, we may make another change to the plan. That's just the things that we noticed that we felt like we needed to change. So we'll do some introductions. We'll do a brief, a core briefing. And you guys were here 5 years ago. Maybe a little bit familiar. It's a lot of the same stuff, but hopefully you'll get some good information out of it. We'll talk about the public comment process and the whole public review process, the workshop guidelines, and again, then we'll go through the proposed changes to the plan, and then we'll take public comments and answer questions. If anybody has got to cut out, just feel free to take off. We had one of these on Tuesday, Lyon County. We were there until about 8:15. We were kind of done, but people kind of hung around and asked questions and things like that. So we got till 8 o'clock, and so we'll answer questions as long as we can. And when we're done, if you want to grab one of the rangers and talk to them about something specific in your area, that's fine too. So, all right, just some introductions. The ranger staff, the Corps of Engineers, Josh Skinner and Jeff Lasley, they work Lyon County. They were at the meeting on Tuesday. They're out here tonight. And then we have Ben Clark standing right here on my left. He works Trigg County, kind of the northern part of Trigg County, the north side of Little River. And then Danielle Packard, right here on my left as well. One of these two is probably your ranger if you're in this room, and she works kind of the south side of Trigg County. And then Wes Davenport, right here to my left as well. He is the biologist, and he's over the shoreline management program as a whole. It's kind of his thing that he runs, and he does have an area that he manages himself on the very southern portion of Trigg County, all the way down to the state line. And then Jeff Hancock is in Tennessee and down in Stewart County. And then David Landis is another ranger who manages the recreation program for us, the campgrounds. He's the fee cashier. He does environmental compliance, and he's our safety person for the project. So if you camp in any of our campgrounds or use any of those, you probably may see Dave at some point. He deals with our park attendants and that type of thing. So again, you might have seen this slide, but again, the Corps of Engineers, we are a major command of the Army, so we work for the Army. We are civilians. We're not soldiers, but we are employees of the Army. It's about 39,000 employees. I would say less than 1,000 of them are uniformed soldiers or officers. So 99% civilian employees. We're organized in divisions and districts all over the U.S. and we have some divisions overseas as well in Afghanistan and Iraq. We set up districts, divisions there after all the fighting to rebuild facilities and schools and other infrastructure there. So that's just a little bit about the Corps. I'm going to talk about some of the mission areas that we have. Because a lot of people don't know. I mean, you know what the Corps does here. We manage Lake Barkley. But all over the country and all over the world, water resources is a mission for the Corps of Engineers. Environment, obviously. Infrastructure, Corps of Engineers, built the Pentagon, Washington Monument, a lot of other big things, bridges and all kinds of infrastructure in the country. Homeland Security and obviously warfighting, engineer battalions in war. So, you know, that we are part of the Army, so that is a major emphasis for us. Water resources there. You look at Barkley Lock. You've got Kentucky Lock and Barkley Lock, just side by side in Grand Rivers. There's 25,000 miles of inland waterways that are navigable, and mainly because of the locks that were built in order to get traffic up and down the rivers. And so the Corps hosts about 30% of all recreational visits to federal lands. So we're the number one provider of outdoor recreation opportunities in the federal government. So we have a lot of land, a lot of projects all over the country. I think about 400 lake and river projects. And we host about 380 million visitors a year. So pretty extensive visitation and supplying that recreation opportunity. So there's some of the water resources things. I mentioned navigation just a little bit. That generates $18 billion annually, supports about 20% of all U.S. jobs. So you think, you know, these barges that are going up and down the rivers, and not just the barges on the river here, but the ports like that are in Galveston and California, stuff coming in from overseas. The Corps of Engineers manages a lot of those ports and keeps those deep enough for ships coming in. And so that's a major emphasis for the Corps of Engineers. Hydroelectric power. You live in a part of the country. You know, we have two hydroelectric power plants right here on Barkley and Kentucky Lake. The Corps is the largest renewable energy producer. We produce 25% of all U.S. hydropower, and it's 3% of all U.S. electricity. You say 3%, that's not very much. And it's not, because, you know, you've got your steam plants, your coal-fired steam plants, and nuclear energy now is producing a lot, the backbone of the energy. But what hydropower plants do, a lot of people don't realize this, hydropower plants produce the power that's needed very quickly when people get home from work and they turn on all the lights and the air conditioners and they start cooking, and when people get up in the morning. So we're peak power producers. We can turn the power on instantly and start generating power and put it on the grid, and we can take it down just as quick. Where steam fire plants, coal steam fire plants take a lot longer to bring out and bring down. And so that's what hydropower does. It's renewable, it's clean, there's no byproducts. It's just falling water, turning a turbine, turning magnets, putting megawatts on the grid. And so that's just a little bit about hydropower. You can't store electricity, so that's why it's important for us to be able to turn on when we need it, generate that power, and then if we don't need it in the middle of the night, we can back it down into the coal-fired plants or use the backbone of the power at that time. So that's why we have some of the cheapest power rates. We don't have expensive peak rates like you do in some places in the country. When you're using power between 3 and 5, that power costs you more than the power you're using, 3 and 5 p.m. in the afternoon than the power you're using at 1 a.m. in the morning. Here, those rates aren't that much different, but some places it's quite a bit different. So, just something kind of interesting I want to share with you guys. Environment is another one, and environmental stewardship there is highlighted. That's kind of why we're here today, and that's part of what we're doing today. So the lakes were built primarily for flood control, navigation, and hydropower reduction. That's what they were authorized for, Kentucky and Barkley. A byproduct of that, obviously, is the lake, which is an attraction to people for recreation and for tourism and other opportunities. Environmental stewardship, the land that before purchased around these lakes in order to protect the water quality, provide natural resources. Environmental stewardship is what we do to protect that. And part of that is the shoreline management plan, balancing private exclusive uses for people who live on the lake with public use of the lake and enjoyment for everybody. And that's why we have a shoreline management plan. So we provide those private exclusive uses, but we also want to manage that in a way that we don't damage the natural resource and it's there in perpetuity. That's the goal. So this is kind of our area. The purple is the watershed for the Cumberland River. Starts in eastern Kentucky and goes down into Tennessee, south, comes through Nashville, and then comes back, flows back north into the Ohio River near Paducah. So it's kind of odd that, you know, these two rivers, they do flow north. That throws people off a lot of times, but that's not going the right way. But it's all about the terrain. So the terrain is dropping from the east to the west here. It's the higher elevation and getting to a lower elevation area of the Ohio River, flowing south to the Gulf. The green area is the watershed for Kentucky, for the Tennessee River, which runs into, you know, Kentucky Lake and Barkley Lake are the last regulated waters on the river before it runs into the Ohio River. So we're the last dams that control water before the river's dumped into the Ohio. So any water that falls in far eastern Tennessee and Kentucky, that water eventually comes through Barkley Dam. And so we've got a pretty high turnover rate. A drop of water comes through Barkley every 9 days. So from the time it comes through Cheatham Dam and goes through Barkley Dam, the average time that the water is retained in our pool is about 9 days. And so water's moving through pretty quick. Some people see Barkley and go, well, that's just a shallow, muddy lake. It's dirty. Actually, the water is coming through here pretty quick. It's not stagnant. It's not really stagnant water. So that's just kind of an interesting point. If you look, Tennessee is about twice the watershed of the Cumberland. And so anytime Kentucky is spilling or they're generating, they generate about twice the power, they spill about twice the water as Barkley does. And they're regulated the same way because they're connected with an unregulated canal. And so we have to keep them at about the same elevation at all times in order to balance everything and not get the flows too high going through the canal. So I kind of mentioned this earlier, the primary purposes there, flood control, navigation, hydropower. Barkley is unique in that it is a run-of-the-river project. It's on the main stem of the river, and most main stem river projects don't have much flood control. But Barkley does, based on the size, and we're the last one before we run into the Ohio River. We do have a flood control purpose as well. If you guys live on the lake, you probably know we have an easement that we purchased up to a 378 elevation where we can put water on that if need be. Instead of buying the property in fee title, we just bought the easement to be able to put water there. So additional purposes there, recreation, fish and wildlife, water quality, and water supply. Those are all secondary benefits of projects, and we know they're very valuable and they're very important. And I know very important to you folks here tonight. Just some photos I want to show. I think some of these might have been on the last presentation. But boat patrol, you'll see the rangers out on the lake on the weekends doing water safety checks on boats, vessel checks, making sure people have life jackets, fire extinguishers, kill switches, all of those things. Water safety is one of our primary issues at the project on the natural resources side. Buoys, we set secondary buoys, not the big metal ones on the main channel, but the smaller ones that you see going into the secondary channels. Those are some that we maintain. And there may be some questions about those. I know there's some that are missing this high water events that we had in the winter. Those things move around, so I know we've got some work we need to do on those. Again, water safety events, we do camps, we do boat shows, trying to get that message out to young people and adults alike. Get parades, just getting that out there. That's the duck line drawing where we host that every year in conjunction with Fish and Wildlife to provide hunting opportunities, folks on the lake. And the bottom picture there is just marking boundary line. You may see us, we've been in Trent County the last couple of weeks marking some boundaries, fresh industrial paint. We do that to kind of protect the natural resource, make sure people know where the boundary line is, and try to prevent inadvertent encroachments. People might, forget or not know exactly where the line is. So we try to let people know that and protect that natural resource. This is a picture of Cage Park. This was a partnership we did with the City of Katie's Parks and Rec Department, Rotary Club, and TVA actually pitched in some on this to take a whole playground out and put a nice state-of-the-art playground and use roller services. It's completely accessible and inclusive for kids of all abilities. It's a great partnership that we just did with the local community there. And then the bath, we talked about this, I think, last time we were here, but that's a picture below Barkley Dam when they're spilling water out of the lock. And I think they were actually shocking to get this photo. But the bioacoustic fish fence, that's what the FAF stands for. Everybody probably knows about it, but for those who don't, this is a system that was put in on the lower side of the lock to prevent carp from moving into the lock and moving into the lake. And so it's a series of air hoses in the bottom of the lake that creates a bubble curtain with sound and lights. And so it's basically like we like to call it the fish disco. It's lights, music, and air bubbles, and it deters actually carp from moving through it. It's been there since 2019. They're continuing to study that with to liberty tagged Asian carp to see how they move through it, if they defeat it, if they avoid it. It's been on off cycle since 2019, and that's still working. And there's federal money out there. There's federal dollars out there for more of these structures to go in on other projects as well. So they're looking into that even more to keep these carp from expanding further, and commercial fishermen obviously fishing them out. They've been doing a pretty good job of that. They've been removing millions of pounds a year from the lakes. It's just some pictures of the installation there. You did some dredging and installed that in. That's what it looks like in the day. You just kind of see it stirring the water there a bit and kind of creating the barrier from carp moving upstream. All right. That's kind of an overview of the tour. I just kind of wanted to do that to get everybody an idea of what we do. Most of you here for the Shoreline Management Plan and our public review that we do every 5 years, and we open up for public comment. Just to talk just a little bit about that, and then Wes is going to kind of go through the changes for us before we take comments. So again, this provides long-range management for our shoreline resources, and so we've had shoreline management plan since the 70s. It's changed over the years. Over 5 years, it changed a little bit. The rules changed a little bit, all because of things we see that we think we need to do to protect the environment and still provide private uses. So that's the whole objective there, is to balance that. We do this review every 5 years, have these public workshops. We were here in this very place 5 years ago. and doing these workshops. So the whole process of how this is going to work, just to remind you, that sheet that I showed you, just be sure to get one of these. If you want an area looked at for an allocation change, meaning I want my area open to docks, or I want my area open to land use, or I want to see bigger docks, or whatever it may be. If that's a comment you want, it's something you want to see, submit it in writing. Okay, you can say that here tonight, and we'll take the comment, and you can speak your mind, and you can request that, but you have to request it in writing to us, and for us to review those areas, and for us to evaluate and consider those changes to the plan. So that's what we're looking for. You can do that by, you can leave a comment part here today if you want to. We got some index cards, and you want to do that, and we'll take it. The preferred method is you can mail it to us, or email. There is the best. Usually, is the best method for us. So you can email that, and we can we'll compile all those comments together, review those things, review the requests that were made, evaluate them, and then make a decision on those suggested changes as we go. So you have 30 days from the last meeting. Our last meeting will be next Tuesday, April 1st. So get your comments in by May the 1st. You don't have to leave them here today, so you got 30 days to email those in to us. There's the email address again, and again, everybody can get one of those sheets. Any general questions that you want a written answer for, submit those as well, and we'll have a QA document that we will send out. The way to get the documents sent to you, if you want all the answers, is you sign up on the sign-in sheet, and or send in a written comment with your contact information to provide that. And those will likely go out via email. If you don't have email, and you send us something in writing by mail, just put that on there. You don't have email, and we will mail those out. But preferred method is section trees, is we'll send all that stuff out digitally in sections. You have them printed off, and you get the shoreline land, you get the Q&A document, you get the area review, so we look at for allocation changes. And so the plan will probably, we'll review all that stuff through the summer and the fall, and it'll have to get approved probably by the end of the year is when that will come out. Last time we did these meetings in January, February, we got the plan signed in September. So we're a month or two later this time. So I'm saying November, December is the likely time frame. And you have an opportunity to make oral comments today if you want it. Just because you didn't sign that you wanted to, again, if you got a question, we'll try to answer it here today. May have an answer, I may not. I'll try to give you the best answer I got. And these are just some guidelines that I like to, go over. We'll try to answer questions. Again, if you want the written, all the questions, sign the sign-in sheet, make sure it's legible, we can see your email. And then just be respectful, polite. I'm happy to hear anything you want to say. If you don't like something we do, if you do like something we do, okay, you can back. But if you don't, that's fine. I can take it. Just let's just be respectful, and just don't call me names. If Wes, you want to call me names. But we'll be happy to answer questions, and then we'll all be around at the end too. If nobody wants to talk, some people like to talk to a public forum. It's perfectly fine. When we're about done, it seems like everybody's kind of talked out. We'll be done. You can wrangle us in the corner, and we have to talk and ask questions and be as transparent as we can with you. So I'm gonna let Wes talk for a few minutes, and then we'll open it up to public comments.
It's good to see everybody this afternoon. Yeah, my name's Wes Davenport. I apologize in advance that y'all can listen to me tonight, but I get the nice dry part of this. Before we get started, everything we've proposed, all the changes we've proposed so far to this have been clerical or basic additional language. There's no allocation changes at this time to put in. We wait to get public comment back before we start changing stuff like that. So just know that this is mostly going to be clearing stuff. So I'm going to go through it. It's going to be up here on the screen for you to follow along if you get a copy with you. Everything good. So starting out page 3, we added a language for clarification on the scope of the shoreline management plan. It describes some activities not governed in the shoreline management plan. It describes what it's for. More or less, the SMP is going to be a matching tool for resource management. Work off of it on how we work through items of the lake. Moving on to page 4, again, it's just an additional description of the attributes of Lake Barkley, talking about the surface acres, how many acres of fee land, things like that. There. Page 4 continued is just more of that description. This section pertains to the flowage easement, how it was purchased, when it was purchased, things like that. Page 5 is an intent description of the adjacent property and some of the challenges associated with it. It includes the growing pressure we have for development, along with kind of how, what we face when we're looking at the order with LBL, our kind of management process with them. Page 6 is simply an ad description for a marina in Clarksville, Tennessee. We've got the other marinas in there. We didn't have this one, so we added this one this time. Page 8 is simply a paragraph about the 2015 plan. We reviewed it back in 2020, 5 years ago. It's talking about the major changes we did in there, such as restricting the size of platform docks to 300 square feet, and they can't have roofs, along with describing the amount of shoreline that would change from either limited development to protected or from limited development to docks and mowing boats. Page 10 is, again, adding clarification on how protected shoreline is determined. It falls under the protected shoreline section. Simply goes into characteristics and what we look for when we look at that determination. Page 11 is a paragraph we added about the modification of a permit outside of violation. So we can modify the permit if something was to come up either during our inspection process, if someone calls on it, or if the district engineer decides we need to reevaluate things, we can go in and do that as well. Page 12, we just added some clarifying language in there for mowing areas. Again, it was a little bit vague, and we just wanted to kind of specify how we were doing that to make it easier. We also added removal of any vegetation below normal summer pool elevation is prohibited. I wanted to make that abundantly clear in the plan. Page 13 goes on. It's still part of the low unit pressure permit. Talking about how we determine that and what a meandering path is, along with describing what size trees can be removed. Page 14, we added a sentence in there for penalty for not installing riprap after a dock install, because that disturbs the bank. So we require 50 feet total of riprap to be added when a new dock is installed. That's 25 feet either side of the dock. And we simply added this in here that if you fail to stabilize with riprap, that we can require you to allow natural vegetation to regrow on the shore to stabilize it. Page 16 is just we just defined a few colors. Before we had a big statement about it, so we went ahead and spelled out which colors they would be. Page 26, you'll see the stripe through here. That is the Core Watch program. They did away with that program a few years back, so we're removing it from the Shoreline Management Plan since it's no longer part of our protocols. Page 27 is clarification for dredging riprap. Talking about which permits you need, how it falls under that action. Just basic language to describe those better. And page 28, we added a line of the planting of non-native species is prohibited. We wanted to really spell this out because we don't want things like Prudent or Kudzu or something like that getting a foothold on the shores of Lake Barkley. So that is the major changes. You'll see if you're curious about any of the changes, feel free to ask us about it. There's other stuff in there that's highlighted. Usually it's a word or two here and there when we fix code. I'm sure there's more if you're an English teacher, I'm sure you can point out more to me that I didn't find. But if you have any questions about it, feel free to ask me about it. At this time, we'll go back to who's going to take the public conference. Yeah.
All right. So again, if you got questions about any of that, and you want some clarification, feel free to ask it. I'm gonna go through the list here, and people who said they wanted to make a comment, we'll go down that list, and you can just, if you don't mind, just stand up where you are, kind of speak loud enough for people to hear what you want to say. And if it is a question and you want me to address it, I'll try to answer it. I will say, if you ask me to open up an area, we want this area opened up for docks, I'm not going to say yes or no tonight. I'll just tell you that. We will, but we do look at every area that's requested. We physically go on site, look at it. We look at maps of it. We go on site, physically look at it, and we compare it with our evaluation criteria and the consistency that we have in the shoreline management plan up and down. That's how it's been. So we'll get going on this then, and just in the order, no particular order other than how you got here and signed up. So David Westerfield is the first one I see on here that said yes, if I can make a comment. So you get to be lucky number one.
Didn't intend for that. I know some of you guys, I've had a Little River Raft project for Kayak Ramp. And our next project we're looking at is at Boys Landing Road down at the Canyon. And there's a dispute on who owns what. The guy named Ken at the end, he has a trailer on the road, you run that car and got it blocked. And I didn't know about the 378. Little how far they got up to the regular galvanized folks out there for designs. But I had just written someone to the Parks and Recreation about it, letting them know what direction we want to go. And their answer is that was in a low rate. We want to help so everybody can for landing and that campground area, but kayak access posts it's safe as well as for people who like to kayak down the bridge, that sort of thing. Just like open down there as well.
Okay. No, I would just say, you can submit that, submit a comment, and then just get with Danielle about that, and we can talk about the process we need to do to make that happen. I think it would be more than likely to be a permit, a regulatory permit we've done before. We just have to look at how we do that. Because I know we've done we did the one in Katy's Park, which is leased to the city. Yeah, and I know we worked with you on that.
That's just what Katy did.
Right.
10 foot wide. We don't want jet ski. We don't want
Right. You got you.
Oh my gosh, so you spoke out for the water that.
Yeah, we'll just need to look at it and talk about the exact location and specs and see what we can do with that. Looks like Corey Walsh.
Yes, sir.
All right.
So you mentioned the channel runners, because I'm sure we've all kind of happened to stand on a beach or float around. What should you do when that happens?
So I may defer to one of these guys, but if it's one of the large steel ones, the ones that are about this big around, and the big heavy steel ones, those are Coast Guard, and sometimes we have talked to them, we have called them before and told them where they were, and they tell us they come get it. I don't know if they do or not, because when they bring their big tender boat down, they've got some smaller boats on there, like some John boats, and they can go drag them over and they can pick them up if they're cranky, put them on the boat if they're in. And I think they try to recycle them if they know where they are and they can get to them. So if you want to put that in the form of a question, we can probably nail that contact information down and provide that. And then you can also call our office. Our number's on that sheet. You can call our office and let us know that. If it's the smaller ones that we put out, the secondary ones, they're like the 9-inch polyethylene. If they got any damage or anything like that on them, you could pull them out and throw them away, or you could call us if they're sitting up there, we're in the area, maybe we'll come by and pick them up. Because they're kind of big, and they have to go kind of in the dumpster. I don't know if your trash company would pick them up, set them by your Kirby or not. They might, but that would be, yeah. We don't necessarily need those things back because they tend to last a couple of years, and then so we're constantly replacing them. That's just like I said, I know we've got a few we need to put out there. We've got about 300 of those things that we keep track of, and so it's kind of I don't say a full-time job, but it takes a while to get them set, and we're constantly having to do it. So, but we're happy to know where those are. And if there is an issue somewhere, Little River or Rock Castle or anywhere, Crooked Creek or whatever, if you see them, just call our office and let us know. Actually, Ben Clark, he does the GUI program. He can call and ask for Ben and tell them where they are, and we'll try to get them worked out. Awesome. Thank you. Yep. Paris, yeah. I know it is Coast Guard out Paris. The phone number is, sometimes they got a cell phone number for the guys on the boat, and they get scheduled when they're coming, and they're not going to they're not going to bring their boat out typically, except when they're ready to come. They'll take it out just to go get one. But if you do have one there, they're king. You can tie one off and let them know, and the next time they come out, it may be 2-3 months, but they come get it. So, all right, Shoreline. You're the next one.
I have 2 questions.
Yes.
Do you want me to ask them both together or one after the other?
Yeah, well, why don't you ask one? That way, I don't have a bad memory.
2 different subjects.
All right.
My first is, on Little River, are there any blockchain data centers set up on Little River that also are using our energy as well as development areas? Or is Little River free as those? And how does it impact the availability of generated power?
So, I may have to have you explain what you're talking about because I'm not sure I totally understand what you mean by blockchain.
Certain data centers that are using a lot of computing power for crypto type entities that are on other parts of the lake, not necessarily Little River,
Okay.
but they also use and share the energy, quite a bit of it. And I didn't know if we are in that here at Little River or not.
Well, so I'll have to say I don't know. I don't know of any. I don't know of any of those, and I don't know anything. Y'all know any of that? I'm not aware of any of that. So, if there is something that, but it's already.
There's one engineers that have not say that in trying to manage it. The insurance rates have just continued to do this and underneath even though it's a community dock covered underneath our structures and damages covered underneath our structures. But yet current regulations say we have to have liability as a dock association.
Mm-hmm.
But we're almost out of any possibilities to continue to skyrocket.
Yeah. I guess the reason we had that in there, I guess, was trying to wonder how the insurance companies would do liability on a community dock association. How would they know which insurance to assign the liability to?
And if it's not liability,
If it's a 4, yeah, I'm not sure how it will work.
according to the owners, they all have good property insurance in the company,
Yeah,
but that's not meeting the requirements of the code.
right, okay. Yeah, submit that. I don't know. That'd be something we would run through our office of counsel. We just see that's something that's always been in there. And I know the paying of insurance stuff right. my house insurance doubled in the last 2 years, so I understand the prices are definitely going up. But as far as them not willing to cover, do a liability policy for that, that'd be something we may just have to look into that and see. So I don't have a good answer for that tonight, but yeah, for sure. All right. Got somebody that says perhaps on here. Mr. Al Hobson. Good. Okay. And then I got a maybe from David Williams.
I want to make sure everybody gets through before
Okay. Well, I just got one more maybe, and that's from Eunice Stone. No maybe. Okay. So that's everybody that said they wanted to make one.
Sorry,
Yes, sir.
Mark, yes, please.
Yes, sure.
So we live on Rockcastle Road, the Fee Hall Road, and the channel that goes to farms, there's 2 channels and beyond that. But our channel seems to get smaller and smaller with water depth. And as far as I know, there's no always marking that. Very key is strapped right now. Is there any looking at increasing the water depth? Dredging it or dredging it out? Or in the outlet, or in the outlets.
Right.
So we were told that it's not a recreational area, it's not hard with it, that it's not a priority as far as dredging it out.
Yeah. Well, I will say this, whether it's a recreational area or not, as far as dredging any kind of secondary channel that's not the main channel, like the commercial channel for commercial navigation, those are not a priority when it comes to funding and getting money to be able to do that. And I don't think I talked about this here the last time we were here, but like the budgeting process, we request our budget 2 years in advance. We're always doing 3 budgets. We're executing one, we're requesting one, and there's one that's getting approved. And it's in a cycle. So we've requested dredging. We got some money to do some dredging back in 22. It was a disaster relief. It was some special funding that we got to do some recreational dredging, and we tied that on to a contract that we do routinely every 5 years to dredge the main channel down in Tennessee around a government city steam plant. It's an area that takes maintenance dredging to maintain the channel. And so we tagged onto that contract to try to do some recreational dredging into some areas down in the south part of the lake that were really silting in bad, to the point where you can't hardly get to the ramps in the wintertime. The problem was, tying on that contract, that the equipment they were using was large barges with clamshell, and they couldn't really get their equipment into the places because the channels were small. And so we dredged right where we could, but we couldn't get a lot of what we wanted to do. So there's some money left over, and we're doing some environmental work right now with that money, NEPA work, National Environmental Policy Act, to try to dredge some more of those channels with like a cutter head, like a small, almost like a big pontoon boat with it's got a cutter suction, and they can stick that out and cut it. It's basically a slurry that they pump out. And so we're trying to do some environmental work to get permission to do that in some areas, particularly in Tennessee, Dyers Creek and Lick Creek. Some of those areas that are really silted in, you can't get to them. That are not commercial, but recreational boat ramps that we operate. As far as just dredging, any, they for an area like they're talking about in the upper parts of Little River, that's going to be a difficult ask for the federal government to get money to do that. That's probably going to take some lobbying of, congressmen and things to get to point out the problem, which is a problem. Every reservoir has a life, and this lake is it's over 60 years old now, so bays are silting in from the back, and there's a lot of silt and a lot of things going on. And so I will acknowledge it is an issue, and it's an expensive issue to fix, and so it's going to take money. It's going to take money to do that, and it getting on somebody's radar, kind of like the bath, the basic part got on somebody's radar, and now there's some money coming in to do those projects. But I mean, it's going to take millions of dollars to do something. Yes, sir.
Would you mind expanding a little on what you mean when you say every reservoir has a life? Like what is there? Is that a life?
A life, yeah.
Oh, is there? What's the 100 or 200 year outlook for?
Yeah. So most reservoirs, and I've heard, and I can't put my finger on the study, but a lot of reservoirs, they call them 100-year reservoirs. And it doesn't mean that it's going to be completely silted in 100 years, but I've been here for 24 years. I've worked here at this project, and I've been the manager for the last 7 years. And I have definitely seen, I get called all the time, hey, why is the water so low? It's the lowest I've ever seen it. And really the water's the same elevation. It's just the bottom is kind of getting higher. And, especially around the back of the river, Shawn Ridge and that area. That's where you can definitely see it, because I drive by there and it's like, that didn't used to be land, 15 years ago. And I understand it, but it is a fact of just weather and storms and runoff and siltation, and it's just an ever-growing problem. And I don't know that there is I don't know if there's a great solution, and I don't know what kind of studies there are, but I know what it would take, what I think what it would take to fix it. And I'm just being transparent, because there's no talk of this, but it's lowering the lake below winter pool for a year and letting it dry out some, and going in there with heavy equipment and scraping some stuff and making an island. Or we talked about this on the way down here, but don't quote me on any of that, because that's nothing that's in the works. That's just my thinking. Probably shouldn't be saying it from a microphone here, but it's just an expensive, dredging is an expensive problem, and so I don't have a good answer. For it. Yes.
Not much trying to get, so you ain't making it this year.
Is it?
Like to dry out and having other trucks come in and haul in stuff.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, it's going to take, I can request, so I've requested money for dredging for Barkley several times, and we compete nationwide with other recreation projects, but also with hydropower, also with navigation and the flood control issues. And so there's only so much money to go around, and so it almost has to be something that gets on somebody's radar in Washington, that hey, this is an issue, it's a problem, and see what we can do about it. So that would be the course of action. All right, that was all the comments on there. If anybody has any other questions, I'll stand here for a few minutes if somebody's got something they want to say about any other issue, and I'll see if I can answer it.
How long does it take for, like, if we put in for a dock permit, how long does it take for you to come out and
to get it? So you own the property.
Yeah.
You own it. So if you own property, you'll have a dock, and so it's two different issues. If the property's already dockable, it's in an open area for docks.
what's our
Recreational.
recreational?
You just want to get my own permit.
No,
It's just that's what it's designated. It's not designated mobile and a dock.
Oh, it's okay. It's limited developed, just not okay. So if it's one of those areas where you want it to be open to docks, you want the allocation changed. Yeah, submit that to us as part of this 30-day review. Aerial half planes where the reasons why you think you should, and that'll be looked at. Like I said, we'll review that in the coming months through the summer, and the plan would be it would likely be approved sometime by the end of the year. So yeah. If an area is open to docks, somebody gets a permit, You know, they meet with the ranger, they get permitted in a matter of,
You know, because we live down on Dryden, and there's 2 docks in that whole,
in Dryden.
yeah,
Yeah.
and they were grandfathered.
It's grandfather docks, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So Dryden is one of those bays that, it does have the 2 grandfather docks and no other docks. It's kind of one of the bays that we've kind of set aside. There's only 2 or 3 of them that we've kind of looked at as being areas where we're trying to just maintain an aesthetic area where there's not much development as far as docks and things in there. So that's the reason that's been closed. It's been asked about, you know, multiple times. That's some of the criteria that test that area. Yes, sir.
I guess I get to ask the horse's mouth. I know this has been probably brought up many times, but if we are silting in, but the water level stays the same, then the useful amount of water we have is less to put a kayak in or a boat. Has there been any thought about waiting until after, maybe a day or 2 after Labor Day, to let the water down in this lake so that it's a little bit more beneficial?
Absolutely. I mean, that comes up all the, you know, that question comes up a lot, and so you know, I can talk to it a little bit. Y'all probably heard a lot of the answers to it. I know we got some slides. I'll put that back up in a minute. So this is just some points of why the summer pool is not held longer than it is, or why it's not raised. So, well, let's just raise summer pool with 361 instead of 359. The reason for that, the main reason for that is just the risk of flooding. If the lake is held at a higher elevation for longer, there is more significant risk of flood damage because of that. Because we don't have the ability to store water. And it may not necessarily be on the lake here, but it could be on the river, on the Ohio River, on Mississippi even. Because what Barkley and Kentucky Lake does with our water releases, we have a direct impact on river gauges in Cabo and even in the Mississippi River, as far as we can raise the lowest gauges of what we release. So that's part of the reason why the summer pool is not just permanently raised up. As far as extending it, there's been a lot of requests for that ever since the lake was impounded and over the past, even the past 10, 15 years, most recently. But these are some of the main reasons why. I've got another slide I'll show you on the guide here. Increased bank erosion on the lake. So the longer you keep the lake up at the higher level, your banks are more straight up, and the water lacking on there causes increased erosion, which only increases precipitation more than we've been talking about in the bay. So when you lower the lake and you keep it at a lower level for longer, the shoreline is more of a gradual slope, and the waves and the erosion action lapping up on the flatter areas is kind of like a beach. It just laps up and it's not cutting the bank and causing things to slough off. That's one reason. Just higher power demands in the late summer, which is when the lake starts to drop in July, August, September. Typically the highest peak power demands that we have because it's hot. We're generating at the max, and we're not getting rain, and so the lake just starts to drop because of the lack of water and the generation that we're required to put through the generation for peak power demands. And then the other main reason is environmental. There's more down here, but impacts the wading birds and then also fish habitat. If we keep the lake up longer, the longer we keep it up, the less time the mudflats in the backs of the bays have time to germinate and seed and grow, which creates habitat for wading birds. And then when that floods again, that vegetation creates habitat for fish as well. And so there's been some different trials over the years. This is the guide curve. The black, it's kind of hard to see the black there, but it's this line right here. That's the existing. These are some of the other options that we looked at. The actual original guide curve was June 15th was the start of the drawdown. That was changed back in 1980. They did a study, did a trial, and they ended up adopting a black guide curve instead of the green, where it drops kind of sharply and then leveled out. So they extended it by 15 days. Unofficially, we waited another 3 or 4 days to after the holiday before we start dropping it down. There was a study done in the 90s of the stair step, and that was actually proposed by like national resource agencies. It took Fish and Wildlife, TWRA, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. They actually proposed that study, and they were going to do that for, I think they were going to do that for 5 years. And they tried it, and during that time, they had some drought and they had some floods, which kind of skewed the data. Meaning the water was so high that it was way above the stair step anyway. They ended up abandoning that trial after about 2 years because the agencies decided, hey, we're seeing some negative impacts primarily to vegetation on the shoreline, not growing, and then also like buttonbush and things around the shoreline. It was receding because it was staying flooded, inundated for longer periods of time, and it was causing it to basically recede. It was killing it back, is what was going on. And so that was a study that was done, and then back in 2005 and 6, Congressman Whitfield was really hot on the idea of keeping the lake up longer, and it's primarily pushed by recreation and motorists and tourism without doing an extensive environmental impact statement, which we would look at impacts on the lake here, upstream, downstream, on Ohio, Mississippi River, flood risks, impacts to mudflats, migratory birds, fish habitat. All those things would have to be looked at. And so that's kind of where we stand right now. That was put out that the EIS would need to be done. 15 years ago, that was about $2 to $3 million price tag to do one of those. So it hadn't been funded, and there hadn't really been another push to make that happen. I think a lot of the national resource agencies are opposed to it simply for the fact that they would like to see it go back to June 15th. To be perfectly honest, that's what a lot of stuff in the EA was determining. But there are both sides. The yellow line on there, that's a study that TVA did. That was their reservoir operations study. They did an EIS on the Tennessee River Lakes, Kentucky Lake, Pickwick, Wheeler, Jack, all the way down to Tennessee. They did change their guide curve on some of their lakes. And I don't know which ones, but they did change Kentucky due to opposition from the Fish and Wildlife Service, state agencies, and the Corps were in favor of changing the guide curve on Barkley and Kentucky because they have to be operated together because of the unregulated canal. So there's been a lot of talk about it in the last 4 years, and there's been some studies done on it. I just think it's a high hurdle. I'm not saying it's not ever going to happen, and it's way above my pay grade. It's not something I can just say that we're going to do this. It's way above me. But I'm just trying to give you some of the information that's out there. And I think somebody at the other meeting asked for some of that. The EA that the Corps did, and the reservoir operations study that TVA did. And if they submit a question, we'll try to put that information out and stuff we send out.
Well, I don't think it's addressed the rate of silting that's happening. I mean, is there a study that says how much silt is going into the lake?
There are. I mean, there are studies, and they do monitor that. And I said they because I don't know exactly who's doing it, and I haven't seen those studies. But yeah, it's obvious that there is siltation going in the lake. The problem is when you have the siltation. You say, well, raising the water or keeping the water up longer will help. Well, it does, but the problem is the storage capacity for the lake is less because you put more water on top of what's already there, and then you have less storage. and you got a risk of flooding that can happen not having the storage. So I don't know. That's a lot of information. I think that's all I got on that. But I hope maybe that helped answer it a little bit. Yes, sir.
This is one question getting back to the, all the starting to see up there. They're talking about extending it. Has there been any thought about just moving the curve 15, the entire curve, say 15 days to, this is here to recreation, but instead of having it at summer pool, say May 1st through to May 15th, and then instead dropping by first, that
Right. Yeah. I don't know that specifically has been asked, but in a way it has, because the problem with it on the back end, the back end is where a lot of the resource agencies have issues, because the longer it stays up in that July, August time frame, and those flats stay wet longer, the less they germinate and less they grow. And that's kind of a critical time period for vegetation to grow, and it's also a critical time period for migratory birds, waiting birds that come through. And so in the EAs and the comments that have been raised from those environmental assessments, that's been some of the major issues, some of the major contingent points for the natural resource agencies, and that would have to be looked at extensively before they would be on board with changing the curve that direction. And I did tell a guy the other day at the last meeting I was wrong. The guide curve does come down to like October 1, and it's about 357, and then it flattens out a little bit to December the 1st. I thought it was more, I was confused. I thought it was more of a red line kind of straight out. It does come down to October 1 and then flattens out a little bit to December 1. And the truth be known, as a guide curve, typically there's a lot of, we call it noise. When you look at a guide curve and you look at the actual elevations, we almost never get to that level of the black line. We're almost always slightly above it. And we call it noise because, we have spikes, we have heavy rainfall, and it spikes up and it comes down. And so that's just our recommended path, but we hardly ever hit it exactly. And that's what causes sometimes problems when they try to stake this stuff. They try to get a good baseline, they'll be in the middle of it, and then we'll get some kind of awful rainfall in August, and it'll jump up and be there for 2-3 weeks. And it's messed up some of the baselines. And so that's been some of the issue with them studying the entire. So, yes, sir.
I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about the reasoning on like the 700 square feet dock area, what led to that, and if there's any like talks of like increasing that a little bit.
Okay, well, there have been talks. I mean, that came up at the first meeting, and it came up the last 5 years too. But it wasn't as much of a public request as what I thought it would be. At the meeting we had in Lyon County, it was brought up, several people brought that up. The 700 square feet was established back in the late 70s, and it's kind of been that since then. I think the idea behind it was, the idea behind the whole shoreline management plan and allowing boat docks is to allow people who have property that looks like lakefront property. Obviously, it's on the lake. There's a little bit of public property between them and the water, but to provide them some type of access to the water. And so the 700 square feet number came up as kind of at that time, it's obviously enough to have about 2 boats in a boat dock.
Small boats.
Small boats, because at that time boats were smaller. And I recognize boats are bigger than they were, 30 years ago. And so I would say, if that's something that is, an interest to you, put that as a comment, and it's something we'll definitely be looking at this time. We looked at it last time. Part of it is a consistency with other shoreline management plans in the district, on the Cumberland River, on Hickory Lake, the Cheatham, and some of the other ones. 700's not been the standard Not to say that it won't change sometime, and not to say that it couldn't change this time. I'm not dead set against increasing it. You know, we did increase the length of docks 10 years ago. We said, you know, if water levels dictated, then you could get an extension out to 7 feet for the docks. So we did increase the length to allow them to get out in the deeper water. The size of the docks would be a similar type thing. You can just look at it and see if the need is there, and obviously if the desire is there from the landowners and from anybody else who may not want it. You know, people who live on the lake, they want bigger docks, and some of the people that don't, they might not want bigger docks. So we just try to balance it out. But it comes down to whether, you know, the impact between 700 square foot dock and an 800 square foot dock or 900 square foot dock. You just got to look at that and see. I don't know what that impact is. I don't know if it's really impact or if it's more of a received thing. So,
Yeah, from what I've seen, like just 100 square feet just like fixes everything.
right.
You know what I mean? And I don't know
Yeah.
why that's a big deal.
Right. And I get where you're coming from.
Yeah.
And we looked at it, and then we'll look at it this time. Because, yeah, like you said, in the 70s, a 20-foot pontoon boat was huge.
Yeah.
And, you know, 14-foot fishing boat with, you know, tiller handle. That's what you had in 1975 and 77. And now, you know, 26-foot pontoon is kind of the average, you know.
Well, mine's 24, so it's
Yeah.
that's by the time you get that length out there, my standard fishing boat is I don't have enough room to put both of them
Right.
under roof.
Gotcha. Yeah. Understand. So,
Well, this is not appropriate, so this discussion is speaking about. Could you speak to the health of the water and some of these reasons for the increase in delicate comments? Well, maybe that's a private discussion.
I can't speak a lot to the health of the water other than that we do have a water quality team that in our national office that's what they do. They go to all lakes in the district on a rotational basis, and they've got certain locations where they test the water data and all things from saturated oxygen to other gases and other contaminants that may be in there. And I won't. I've looked at those things. I will say the water is not bad. More than not, you have isolated areas. So I said earlier, the water comes through Barkley fairly quick, and so it gets flushed through here pretty quick. But where you do get stagnant water occasionally is in the backs of little bays, particularly where you get yeast that are congregating. We have that problem at our beaches, and we do test our swimming beaches. We test them during the rec season once a week, and if the test comes back too high with like coliform or bacteria, we have to test it again. And if that test is high, we close it until we get we put up signs saying it's closed until we get a clear test. And usually it's just because we have had rain, it's been hot and stagnant, yeast has been on the beach. And so right there at that beach area, the water is not very good. But in general, the water in Barkley is not bad. If there are other questions about pelicans, again, I don't know, Wes, if he's got any comments on that. We started seeing that several years ago. The pelicans, they migrate through, and now, you get to see where they just kind of started staying. Some of them would stay a lot. And I don't know if it's just, there's some talk and things about, and they've actually done some of it, some control work on those on Kentucky Lake. I don't know if they've done that on Barkley, but that was years ago. They were doing some of that to try to lower some of those numbers on some of the islands because they were Shoreline habitat for some of the other more desirable waters. Yes.
One of the things we've also talked about is about 4 or 5 years ago when we were hard to put the signs up for kayak runs, the OBL and all of that. Some of the core guys were talking about maybe if we wanted to, we had the pond and the cage part dredged out and then down, put back in. Because there is no break buried by the silt. and put a courtesy dock out there. Lake Madison, they have one, and walking trail and all that.
Right.
Is there a form? You just put that on the board somewhere where you can be discussed in Nashville or that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, again, that would just come down to, it comes down to a budgeting thing and establishing that I didn't know the concrete ramp there, ever since I've been here. It hadn't been, it's been kind of silted in. And it's gotten even worse. It's like that's not even really connected to Little River at all anymore unless it gets up high. It's really a budgeting issue because I was saying recreation is typically not very high on getting money. And so we're fighting always to try to get money for recreation facilities. So to do that, to dredge that out, to put that in there, it would be a tough sale for me to put in there. But again, that's what I was saying about getting on somebody's radar that has power to get the money. It's I think the key to those type of things.
Is the part of that project where we're helping the bridges you know, get some of the yards out, make up for that, and
we did, and that was all done. That was the offset. That they built a new 6880 and the 4-lane. Yeah, there was several areas on core property that were excavated, were to offset the fill material that went into the roads. That was all equalized out, and some of that was done here on State Park and in other parts of core property, but nothing was done there. But a lot of that would have not qualified because it would have been within the normal. It would have been in the normal power pool and not necessarily in the flow storage pool. Above 359, it would have been below that. And they didn't have to have a lot of that. More of what they put in was above some, and so it wouldn't have qualified much for that.
just I don't know if you guys are aware of it, but the water line comes out of the old dam across the bridge. That one line not used anymore. Okay. So that whole thing could hardly go out where people can get up the river further.
Okay.
The old dam from the hills there.
Yeah, is it right there at the bridge?
Right above.
Yeah.
It's the first thing all that.
Yeah.
So,
Well, there's an issue with that too, with the bridge is catching a lot of debris, and that's been a kind of an ongoing issue with the state.
that's the line voltage at the top of the dams. They really won't under.
Oh, gotcha.
I don't.
Okay.
And it's not gone.
Right.
It would be
Yeah.
taken out.
Okay. Yeah, that's probably I'll leave that in. I guess that's like part of the water district. That's probably an issue for them. I'm not sure.
The city water.
The city.
Yeah, it serves that side.
No, okay.
That part line.
Yeah.
How do you? And catch a lot of that stuff.
Yes, it's not good.
I don't know what time it is. Okay.
It's 20 minutes. Anybody got any other questions they want answered in the form? Yes, sir.
I was just curious, for the bathroom room that you have going, for the compartment control.
Yeah.
How successful is that? It seems like 4 years ago I got hit a couple times, and it seems like it's gone down somewhat, but they seem to be coming back. So how successful is that? And what's the plans on that to try and control that?
Yeah, so the bath, it's been more of a, this one on Barkley, it's been more of an experimental thing. So it's on and off to make it see how successful it is going to be. But anecdotally, from what I've seen being on the lake from 10 years ago until now, so back in about 2015, 16, I felt like that was the peak. It was the worst. I mean, you couldn't go out there without a fish jumping in your boat. But then anecdotally, in the last few years, it seems like it has gotten better. And I feel like that's just a result of, they put some subsidies on the fish, and they've got more commercial fishermen, and they are fishing a lot of poundage out of the lake. And part of the reason they were so bad in 15 is there was they had a good spawn right around that time or before that in the lake. And typically Asian carp don't spawn very well in the lakes. And so that's a good thing, is they don't like the still water. They need the running water to spawn. So they typically spawn in the rivers. So the idea is keeping, if they can establish these bath systems and keep them from moving into the lake, and then have some type of fishing program to keep the numbers down to a manageable level. That's what we do. The numbers I've seen on the bass, they've done these preliminary studies. They've got another one that's about to come out. It just hasn't come out yet. It is successful. It's not 100% by no means. There are fish that will jump it. There are some fish that will swim through it, but it does seem to deter the fish more often than not. And so it does provide some. And I'm looking forward to seeing the new study that took out. It's going to come out.
Okay.
All right. Well, I'm going to wrap that up. Again, if anybody's got any questions you want to talk to us, Wes or Ben or Danielle or me, off the record, off the side, whatever, have a question about the maps or allocation,